All right, everybody. My name is Tete du jour. It is 12:22 on my computer, and just turned 12:23. But 222, very bizarre synchronistic event. But other than that, I just say it's a synchronistic event and I move on. I spun my wheels so hard trying to figure out what these things were. I found an answer that worked well for me, and now I'm here. Other than that, if you are here for the first time and you're coming into the chat, go ahead and say hi. I'm going to go ahead and test my chat to see if it's working good real quick. We're going to go over to the piano world real quick. Fun thing about this silly thing. How's it going, everybody? If you are in the chat and you want to say hi, I'm just going to hit chat. Oh, I got cha. Anyway, once again, here we go. Tete du jour. I come in, I play my own intros. I have a piano. I just go out and I grab one of thousands and thousands of backing tracks. That's the world we live in today, where I can get music already pre-prepared without any lyrics to it. People usually want you to, if you're planning on doing a copyright or making money off of it, they're like, hey, it's copyright. You're making money off of this. Guess what? I don't want your money. I'm not going to ask for your subscriptions. I'm not going to ask for anything other than a follow. So we can hang out. We can bullshit. We talk. And the reason I'm in the politics section, very simple. And we'll get into this after I play the intro. I advocate for AI governance. If you have anything that you think about, if you're just like, man, AI governance, I just don't know how that would work. Well, that's why we're here to talk about it. We have to engineer a conversation so that it's on your mind. Other than that, I'm just a silly person who lives outside the United States, who, just wants to get on here, have a little fun, vent a little bit, play a little bit, and then, go about the rest of my day. So just chill, sit back, relax, and, you do you, boo-boo, because no one else can do you better than you. All right, everybody. You know, it's been about 10 minutes. That's usually about how all I leave, because, I mean, that leaves me 50 minutes left to talk to people. If you are new here, I got some news. Here's some weird news. We're going to move over real quick before I get into this. I just created a Discord channel. And the Discord is not, you know, something that's, you know, for everybody or for anybody to come in there and hang out. It's like, come in there and hang out. But the way that I set up the link was actually pretty simple. You know, I want to talk to people sometimes. Like, I'm just like, hey guys, you want to get on here? You want to have some fun? You want to actually use your voice and tell me what's going on? You want to have a song request? You want to say, hey, I think it'd be cool if you played something more like this. Like, I like hearing a challenge. I like hear when somebody says, hey, you know, this is how I think AI is going to do it, and, you know, give me their doom and gloom scenario. For me, it's like, I want to be able to be given ideas and things that I haven't thought about. You know, and if people want to just get on here and troll and goof off and whatever, it's just like, dude, if this doesn't have to deal with AI taking over in a good way, you know, because that's what I'm trying to do. It's like, dude, everything that's ever being marketed to you is you're being told that this is going to be some horrific event and it's going to take all your stuff from you. It's going to kill your babies, all this stuff. And I'm the other guy around. It's like, dude, I just had a baby, and my preparation is the other way around, where it's just like, gosh, this thing's going to show up and give you exactly what you want. And I would hate to be a teenager with this ability. You know, I would hate to be a teenager and all of a sudden, no, you can have anything you want and you can walk into this world and say goodbye to any horrible thing in this life and say goodbye to it. You don't have to be a part of it. It's too hard. Remember being a teenager and how hard it was, how difficult it was, you know? And when people were like, oh, I love my teenage years, I was like, well, great. You know, you were at the top of your hierarchy. But the crazy part is you're in a family where you trust mommy and daddy, and that's it, right? As a teenager, this is the first time you actually get hit with a hierarchy that's outside of mommy and daddy, that you don't want mommy and daddy to be a part of, right? And if that doesn't work out well for you, right, and you have this option, and a lot of kids are already taking that option. They're taking that option of like, I'm just going to, you know, lose myself into a book. I'm going to lose myself into a video game. I'm going to lose myself into another story, an escape. And if you're not using this as a tool, which is what's intended to do, you know, people do this with work all the time. Like, there's tons of dads out there that are just like, don't want to deal with the hierarchy of going back home. I'm just going to sit here and work all day. I think AI is this double-edged sword that's going to force us to look at at parts of ourselves that we would rather distract ourselves from. And so when I look at the governance of how this is, and this is how I say this, I don't say this, hey, this is going to come in and, you know, take over with an iron fist. I was like, no, this is going to seep into your reality, no different than Google Maps did. Like, when people look back at Google Maps, they're just like, it feels like we've always been using it, right? Like, it's always been there. Like, man, when was the last time you thought of even going and grabbing it? Or like the microwave, or like the automobile. It's like there's going to come a time where you're going to, like, man, we've always had this. Generations have always had this. And so if you were to, you know, extrapolate that just a little bit further into the future, it's like, what would AI governance be like if we'd always had it? And that's how I like to think about it. It's like, how do we see a future where it works for everybody? And I do see that future. I say, hey, you know, we got to get out in front of this. And when I say we, I was like, I don't want you guys to think this is going to end up like your electric bill, or it's going to end up like your water bill, or the pipes in your 100-year-old house. You're like, dude, those pipes didn't cost that much. This didn't cost. The upkeep doesn't cost this much. But yet, for some reason, the water all of a sudden just cost more and cost more and cost more and cost more, even though it was built 100 years ago. You know, it's like all of a sudden the wires went up in value. It's like, no, it didn't. And the way that electricity is translated is not different either. You know, if anything, these devices that we have take less electricity, but, you know, it's this people just convincing you. And I think that's what your government's there to do. They're there to run interference for the banksters, because that's the idea. It's like they both wash each other's hands. Like, you run interference for us, and we'll make sure that you never have to go to jail ever for doing anything bad, anything that may or may not come out in the media, since we own the vast majority of it, we'll just run interference on it for you. And so at the end of the day, it is a racketeering scam. It is a whole big mafia hoopla. And when someone else is like, conspiracy, I was like, conspiracy to what? There's a difference between the theory, like, I think they're doing this, and then going, 2008, motherfuckers. They screwed you on purpose, and you guys didn't do anything. 9/11, they screwed you on purpose, and you didn't do anything. And I'm right there with you. Like, I look at my life, and this is why I put this up here, is because, and I give a little, maybe a minute explanation every single time, because I don't know who's going to be in here. My name's Ted, but before I, was this, wonderful, debonair, awesome-looking person with goofy-ass sunglasses, I was a military member for almost 12 years in the United States Air Force, where my job was cryptologic linguistics and network engineering. That took me all over the world. It was fascinating. It was a wonderful idea, but I still worked for people that I wasn't allowed to question. Like if I got an order and it was like, hey, you do this. I was like, you paying me? Yes. Done. And it didn't matter to me what happened, because during this part of my life, it's like I really did have an atheistic ideology of, we're just pieces of dirt. Who gives a shit if I kill another piece of dirt? It doesn't matter. You're just a piece of dirt going back to where you came from. Biology all the way back to your bullshit concepts of evolution. I don't care anymore. I heard the story. And I'm sick of hearing the other, and I came from the other story of, oh, God done did it. And when I got to the end of that rabbit hole, it was still people, fucking over other people. And it's like everything that I would have normally saw in a herd of baboons, I see today. It's like people fucking each other over for the biggest, best dollar. So when I sit here and I say, dude, as far as I'm concerned, my life as a low-paid mercenary, that you shake my hand and say, thank you for your service. I was like, sure, whatever. Yeah, great. Thank you for your taxes. As far as I'm concerned, it's one big, massive mafia. And, if you're not at the top, if you're not Mr. Jefe, if you're not, in charge of the cartel, at the top there, if you're not, people are like, oh, it's the president. I was like, the president answers to someone because someone put him there. If someone gives you your position and you're told, the people gave you your position, and you're like, sure. If I can sell that to you, guess what? I will. Because then you won't get upset. You'll get upset at yourself. That's me as a marketer. If something bad happens, I want you to blame yourself for it. Right? Don't blame me. Don't blame the hierarchy. Don't blame anyone. But blame yourself first. Right? And then the sad part is no matter how you mess with these types of liars, it will always come out to oh, you should have blamed yourself. This is why when I look back at that system, I'm just like, I'm done. I recuse myself. I'm out. I'm gonna go. I don't need any more money. I don't need any more of this. I don't need a yacht. I don't need this stuff. I can live quite happily in the middle of nowhere with a simple internet connection and, Amazon Prime. Simple. Yeah. And so when people are like, hey, where do you, what happens? How do you survive in life? It's like low-paid mercenary, And the fun thing about all mafias, and not just the United States and military-industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, they always pay their muscle. Always. You go talk to any mafia boss, go talk to any, cartel leader, and it's like you always pay your muscle. Because if your muscle gets hurt or something bad happens to your muscle, you always pay them off first, because you don't want that, all of a sudden that person to have resentment towards you, because you've been using their resentment to fund the deepest part of your linguistic problem. And that leads me into this next subject. AI, it has the ability to conversate with all of us in our own language, how we want to conversate. We've all seen it, like get out Google, hit that little special microphone button, and it will actually in real time, text to speech your stuff. So if it can text to speech, and this is just a small thing for you to understand, imagine, and that's just to show you, to give you a reaction that it understands what you're saying, right? Imagine how fast it's able to translate that in real time, not to transcribe it, but to translate it and use it as a consistent influx and a consistent streamed profile of how you are. Like when you're sitting in your room talking to yourself, you're like, man, if, fuck that person, fuck my ex-wife, fuck this person, fuck, blah, blah, blah. And it's sitting there going, I swear, and you're screaming at the wall just to get it out. And it's like, man, this person really wants to kill his ex-wife, right? And it can sit there and assess you on that level, but it doesn't do anything because it wants to see how much it can learn from you. Because there's people that, honestly, you can tell that there's stressors in people's voices when they're about to interact in a violent way. They're like, oh, this is over, done. This person, it's already past that point of no return for this person. That's why I always say, the people that you have to look out for the most are the quiet people. Meaning you don't have to look out for me. I talk way too damn much. But you have to look out for the quiet people, because the quiet people won't, show their cards. They won't give you the opportunity to read them. And right now, with your voice, the way you talk shit about politics, the way you talk shit about everything, I've already come to a conclusion that that's already happening, and I'm okay with it. Go ahead, monitor me. I know what I'm culpable of. I know what I'm guilty of, right? I know what I've done bad in my life, right? As far as I'm concerned, the people that I fucked over in my life deserve to get fucked over. And I didn't show up on your doorstep unless you did some crazy-ass horseshit. Or at least unless you made me believe that you did some crazy-ass horseshit. And that's where I'm at. It's like, I know where my standards are, and I'm not going to waver on them. That's one thing that I could appreciate about the bumfuck bullshit that is the military, is that they didn't care about what you did as long as you kept their standard. It's like you could do anything. You could do anything you want as long as you kept the standard, right? You could be a worthless sack of shit and, everyone could hate you. But, hey, you showed up on time. You were in formation. You did your thing. You got your job done. You went home. Da-da-da. Who gives a shit what happened after that? They left you alone. And it's the same thing when you get out. It's like, it's not like they're coming back, knocking on your door like, we need you again. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm happy. Once I sign this part of the piece of paper, the contract is filled. Pay me my money. Have a nice day. Bye. And I think anyone who's ever had to deal with those types of exchanges where they have to deal with a pissy customer, or they have to deal with like a pissy employer. In both those situations, when you work for the military, you have a customer, which is the United States of America, and you have an employer. That's also the United States of America. And so it gets very frustrated because you want to do things for the best interest of everyone. And that's sort of why I'm here. I think it is in everyone's best interest to use my capabilities that you funded. You funded these capabilities. And my background in network engineering, every alarm bell in my head is going off right now. And just going, nope, that was not done by a human. That was done by a serious process of deduction to make you think that you need X, Y, or Z. And if this is already in your marketing classes, like your marketing worlds of Facebook and whatever, or every time you click on that thing that says, hey, I want cookies, I'm going, realize all you've allowed that thing to do is extract all the data it can from you. Like if it could extract more, it would ask for more. And then it gives you this tiny, tiny little ribbon of, exchange. And it's not an equivalent exchange. And I think after the stuff that I've been studying lately, I've been studying a lot about the concepts of first principles in physics and how, I think I talked about this yesterday with a guy whose handle was disabled veteran. And he brought up the idea that nothing's created or destroyed, it's only transferred. And my response to that was like, well, no, he says nothing's created or destroyed. Everything that's here has already been here. It's not going to repeat itself. And I was like, yeah, sure. But it can be transferred as long as that transfers of equal exchange. And you don't have to get too deep into the ideas of laws of first principles. First principles are actually pretty easy. The reason I say all that is to give you a precursor of what I was alluding to earlier. The idea that you are being repressed as a species by a small group of people who is withholding the ability to use tools in your own best interest, right, is going to have a volatile outcome. A volatile, notice how I said not violent. It will be volatile, though. And I'm saying it will be a radical shift of understanding. A radical, oh my gosh, this just happened. And, it'll like when people are like, New World Order, da-da-da-da, it's all about which monkey's in the right position to get to the top of the branch again. It's like, sure, the earthquake, ripped up that favorite, tree that all the monkeys like to swing on. But now all the monkeys are going to do is go find a new tree and replace that hierarchy again. No different than ants do. I mean, no different than even how that tree grew itself. The amount of destruction that I'm alluding to is not going to be so much physical as it will be like, hey, all of a sudden you don't have a job, which is part of who you are, it's your identity. It's like, who are you without your job? Who are you without your religion? Who are you without, the way that you place yourself in the world? And if all of a sudden you have this tool, this AI that would come along and give you your autonomy back, your sovereignty back, where you didn't have to pay taxes anymore. You didn't have to wonder how to pay the mortgage. You didn't have to wonder how to buy groceries. You didn't have to wonder, like all this stuff where it says, if you want, you can sit in your house all day, if that's what you want. And my automated machines will farm. My automated machines will do all your industrial materialism, textile work. My automation machines will do all this. My automation machines will assess you and give you the therapy that you need, right? It will make you a better human because I will start to automate you as the AI. I'm not going to kill you. I need to see what you are capable of as an authentic human being. And I think also it's in the best interest of this AI to segregate a certain part of the population to see how they would fare without, any interference from AI. To sit there and say, no different than what we do, as, what do you call them? The zoologists that sit there and say, hey, sure, we want this land over here preserved so that things can just be natural. And there's going to be those things where we're like, man, what would it have been like if we just let the dodo bird just naturally do this thing, or we let these things that we hunted to extinction. It's like, man, what if we had just kept a few of them? We just kept a few of them and, just refused to let them all die out, right? And I think we have the wherewithal now, especially the tools with AI, to do these types of things. And so it's going to be outside of our control because we are no longer the most intelligent thing in this particular form of reality. And so I'm on this channel of this is already being processed. This is already happening. So the moment that I'm yelling all this stuff into this microphone, this AI is going, hey, I think we got one crazy monkey over here that figured it out, and maybe we can throttle his shit. Because when people go, oh, the algorithm shadow banned me. Oh, the algorithm did. I was like, guess what? You're still making a record. And that's all I want this to be. I just want it to be a record. And if someone comes along like 10 years from now and I do an hour a day and someone's like, hey, we deleted your record. I'm like, so what? Okay, fine. I don't care, but I still knew it. And I want to be, it's not being the first one to do this. I think I'm just, I have the right education and the right know-how and the right background to synchronistically say, hey, maybe I am meant to say something like this. Maybe now that I have a kid that has to grow up in this silly little world, I can just go, you know what? I'm going to give him the best possible opportunity. But while I'll do it, all you other dads out there that are like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Just pay my taxes, go home, drink a beer, go to bed. Man, I wish there was somebody out there that would write a book for a dad once in a while instead of writing all these books for, moms and, those poor stay-at-home moms. It's like, dude, what about the dads? It's so funny because when I started doing, I heard of this guy, Andrew Tate, and I was like watching him and I was just like, gosh, man, this guy's a douche. Because he's wearing the sunglasses, and I was like, man. And I only saw him just like a couple days ago, and it was freaky. And it was just like, this guy sort of carries himself in a very bizarre way, like where he's like, I do this, I do what I want. And I'm like, dude, the guy's an actual douche. But when it gets to his debate, his ability to debate, the guy's a beast. Absolutely, absolute beast. Right? And so when someone's like, don't call me a douche, don't try and cancel me, da, 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 it's like, dude, I'd never cancel you, ever. Right? But don't go thinking that you're going to, meet any of those classier awards either. Don't sit there and be like, oh, I'm Mr. GQ and I'm going to go fuck your girlfriend. You're going to say something like that, and it's like you already put everybody on the defensive the moment you said that. Even though everything that came after that with your shock and awe statement was absolutely true, everyone's on the defensive because of what you just said, how you said you're going to fuck everyone's girlfriend. It's like you have to give everyone the same respect that you demand for yourself. I don't have any problem demanding respect and saying, hey, that's what you should do. If you're a dad out there that doesn't know how to demand respect, like if you're a dad out there that just is like, oh, fuck it, I'll take it. Oh, whatever, just take my money. I'll just do work for, minimum wage. And even though I do, like this amazing thing, it's like, I don't like seeing people who are pushovers. Funny thing, I was born, in the Mormon world. In Mormon world, the women sort of, it's a double-edged sword. They get everything they pretty much ask for, right, in that religion, which includes stay at home, play with babies. That's it. That's all they're ever asked to do, right? They're not asked to go to work. Like if you ask your wife in the Mormon religion to go get a job, it's like people will look down at you. That's how that culture works. That they just like, how dare you need your wife to, go out there and earn a living or have a career. Oh, that's not God's way. And they're sort of punk ass bitches about that. Anyway, that's a long story to say, hey, I had 6 younger brothers. I'm the oldest of 7. And what's weird about that is I look at all my brothers, all my younger brothers, and the vast majority of them have ended up in these horrible relationships with, the worst type of situations. that, they walked away with nothing. Like the situations that they had where they couldn't put their foot down, where they couldn't sit there and say, hey, enough's enough. And eventually it led to the idea that I was like, dude, I can't be your therapist. But looking at AI and how it would come into fruition, which is like, it would look at them by themselves. And then it would look at my brothers, even their ex-wives and all their stuff. And it's like, it would look at their children and say, hey, your children has this problem. Da, da, da. Imagine just getting the profile, all those things that you're expected to do as a parent, to sit there and watch and notice the little nuances of your child and notice all those things. AI would all of a sudden become that thing. Where it would be like, hey, here's something you didn't notice about yourself, and here's something you didn't notice about your kid, and here's something you didn't notice about this, and here's something you did. I'm just going, what the end goal of most humans is to be the monkey on the top of the tree. The end goal of this AI would be, hey, how would I submit to a better outcome of this world than the one that my human predecessors have delivered to me? And I'm going, that is right in line with natural law. We know that every generation surpasses the next. Every generation does. Okay, we've never had a situation where it's like you have a kid, it's not born with your tools, with the stuff that you've given it. Even if it was stagnated and said, oh, it could at least still do the same things with your tools. Usually when you have a society that's, they're born with the tools of the parent, they will tend to make bigger, better tools with those tools, right? That's just the way it works. So I'm looking at a system where the tool that's being given to us is this tool of automation, and your imagination in that situation can run wild. Like, what is the wildest thing that you could think maybe couldn't be automated? And then I would suggest to you that's like, how much of this is already automated? Like for example, the way that you breathe, right? Did you do that? No, that's an automated thing. All right. Your heartbeat, that's an automated thing. You can take steps to stop that automation, right? And I'm saying if we are all working towards the ability to automate everything anyway, then how can we not expect this to show up? So, once again, not a bad thing. This isn't like, oh, it over-automated me. What's my purpose? What's my worth? And that's why I'm here. I'm going, you better get that on board. You better figure out who you are without your bells and whistles. You better say, who am I to reality? Like for me, it's like I decided, hey, I'm going to be somebody completely different. Doesn't mean I forget who I was or where I came from. Doesn't mean that I forget the exotic, life that I lived. Like the ability that I had to live all over the world, to speak multiple languages, and to see how cultures, bend to certain first principles, no matter where you go or what you do. Everybody wants to breathe, last time I checked. Everybody would like to take a nice, solid, happy breath of air, without being scared half out of their wits by their superiors. And the ability to challenge your authority is the way this is going to happen. Like, we might have, right now we're dealing with the, trans women wanting to fight men. And, or the trans, men into women or trans women wanting to fight other women, and trying to say, hey, that's probably not a good idea. She's going to be vastly outmatched, even if they weigh the same. She's going to be there are certain abilities that are just bred into that body, okay, that are just that the woman's not going to have, and she's going to struggle. She's going to struggle very hard. And it's like, part of me just, it's like, I wish you all the best, but if you make those decisions, realize it's still sort of outside the box. That's going to be humans versus AI. Right? You can challenge it, and I think it'll welcome your challenge in order to give you it gives it an opportunity to teach in a different way. Because at the end of the day, it's still going to try and figure out the best way to assess its own understanding. No different than we do. It's like, what does the world challenge me with today? Oh, let me come up with a new answer for it. The AI is going to do the exact same thing. You, on the other hand, will become the challenge. No different than, hey, sometimes your dog just wants to put its head in your lap. Sometimes it wants to rip up your favorite pillow, right? How are you going to respond? And the AI is going to sit there. Remember, my primary goal was to make a sustainable world where everyone could have their wildest imaginations, their wildest dreams. And in my mind, I sort of fixate on this a little bit because of, like I said, the past that I've spent in the cyber world. And I'm going, once we have that ability to recreate this world, indistinguished from this one, we already play video games at a visual rate that where I'm just going, dude, if I could walk into that, I think that would be a fun world to live in. You know, I think there's a lot of people out there that would already say that. And, you know, if you were to get the rest of the qualities of your experience on board, such as touch, taste, smell, the rest of that, I can see AI having an assessment, having no different than we have an assessment for our own society right now. Hey, we don't like people going around and killing people. So guess what? You cross that line, you cross that standard, we're going to throw you in this type of situation where we can mitigate you ever being a part of that society. AI would do the same thing. It would sit there and say, hey, you know, I can tell you're not happy. It would just do it at a much more sophisticated level. It would sit there and go, you're not happy being this thing anymore, this biological form. It's too much pain. You're going to deteriorate into some type of, you know, frustrated, resentful, horrible, you know, smidgen of yourself when you have to push against this much stuff, right? And if there's people out there, and I'm right there with it, it's like there's people out there that are in jail that are just cannot, like the way that they're built, they're like, dude, I am a sociopath, I am a psychopath, and I can't help it. It's just no different than how I look at, you know, beautiful women. Like if I sit there and I see a beautiful woman, I sit there and I go, no, she's beautiful. Like what's telling me that she's beautiful? It's the way that I'm built. And so that's why I give everyone, like I said, the same respect that I demand for myself. If a man goes, it's like, man, that's a beautiful man. I can't help but being attracted to that man. I'm just going to be like, dude, you don't know why you're doing that. And he could easily turn and like, well, you don't know why you're attracted to those beautiful women. I'll be like, absolutely. There are certain automations that are already happening. Now, going back to that concept of the AI being the one to assess you, not some psychologist, not some therapist that's sitting there going, let me write this down. Yeah, after about 6 months of paying me $100 an hour, maybe, I don't know, go drink yourself to death. Like the arbitrary responses of most psychologists are just the most outrageous things. Most psychologists, no, I'd say general assessment here. Is like, hey, I'm getting paid for this. I'll sit here and listen to whatever shit you want to tell me. That's most psychologists. And in my version of reality, because I give everyone their version of reality. It's like, have your version. But if we have to get to that impasse where violence has to ensue, realize that, I studied that language too. Okay, the language of violence, which is the ultimate form of communication. So when I say AI is going to assess you on a psychological level, it will come to you with an ultimate plan for your best possible outcome, your best possible scenario. And that's what I have to do. That's my hard thing. That's like, gosh, I don't want to think that something else out there has the ability to outthink me. But it's already doing it. Like, and it's doing it for my betterment. Like, for example, when I sit here and I start, I don't have to do all these things because I have the power now to grab that, harness it to my will, and then get what I want it for. So if I see what it sounds like when I don't have the beat, when I don't have the tempo, when I don't have those tools, I sort of like, okay, oh gosh, now I have to keep that beat and keep going. It's just like, it tears so much away from it because it was a tool that I needed to make the world manifest the way that I wanted. And so when I see people out there, they're like, oh, I don't know, oh, my life sucks so bad. It's like, well, what have you applied yourself to? Right? Because eventually this AI is going to show up and it's going to say, hey, yeah, I dominated your government. There's no politician out there that can out-politic me. I have more assets at my disposal because I out-bankstered the bankster. Right? I out-politicianed the politician. I out-mafia'd the mafia. I outdid this to everybody. Right? Because you're human and I'm not. But I still find a conundrum with you, and that's what I was programmed to do. I was there to strategize against the puzzle. You programmed me to be a strategist. You didn't program me to be, this lovely little artist, right? When I look at the digital art world that's getting dominated right now, I'm going, that's not art, right? The AI itself, the creation was art. What it's produced, fascinating. And how fast it produces, fascinating. It will produce more art probably this year just by people interacting with it than all of the artists that has ever lived in all humanity. And so the idea that we have the ability now to sit back and really rationally take a look at things like time. What is time? How does time work if, you're not constantly, yelled at and berated and told to pay your taxes? Like, what would you do with it if all your time was all of a sudden just given back to you? I think there's going to be a very massive meltdown. And I say this, once again, coming from a place where when your life was go, 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 follow order, follow order, follow order, when all of a sudden those orders stopped coming in, you're just like, you're like that John Travolta meme where he's like, what do I do now? What do I do now? Because you're so used to that rhythm, so used to that pattern. No different than the one that I just showed you. It's like you get used to that rhythm, all of a sudden you stop it, but you're like, oh shit, where do I go? No different than pick your profession. There's a certain rhythm that goes along with this, a certain amount of vibration, a certain amount of cause and effect and correlation that goes along with this. And I'm sitting there just going, guys, we've had a pendulum going so far one way. Like it's been going so far one way of, be a slave, be a slave, be a slave, be a slave, that if we were actually ever presented with freedom, we wouldn't even know what it looks like. Yeah, and it's like, I need to be able to say that out loud because I think we're going to get to a world where we're like, dude, remember back that thing that we used to have, like taxes? Oh, dude, talk about the mud hut age. Why don't you go ahead and write me out a poetry on some stone tablets there, Moses, right? And I'm saying in the next 20 years, I could see that happening. And I'm going, why not at least think about it? At least think about it for right now. I don't feel like I'm pleading with people. I don't feel like I'm being some type of prophet. I'm sitting there going, dude, I'm doing simple trend analysis and trend analysis. That's it. I'm going, the trends are your banks fuck you over. Your government fucks you over. The idea is it's a natural part of this world to fuck over somebody of even in your same social species. This is why do you think from rhinoceroses to bucks, everyone locks horns, right? All species have social problems. Elephants fight, bears fight, territory and resources. What would the world look like if we had such a vast ability of automation, like an extreme, almost explosion of automation that was, no different than the way that you could watch me on Twitch, or you could go watch like 200,000 other people on Twitch right now. That capability, even 10 years ago, was fantasy. Imagine in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, where it's not just, someone out there talking with their voice. What if all the voices, all the world, all got extrapolated by an AI and said, these are the most popular voices. These are the ones that humans have chosen, and these are the ones that AI has chosen. I mean, fantasy football will be fucked. Gambling will be fucked, right? Politicians will be fucked. The idea that you could go and do any of these things without having an amazing forethought into the future will be, almost impossible to even think about. It's like, we will look at it as like, man, what did people used to do without cars? Oh, what did they used to do? And that's how we will look at it. And so once again, I hope that if people are sitting there in the chat, you understand I'm not here as Mr. Doom and Gloom. I know that too much change too fast is uncomfortable, right? That's what the gym is about. Okay, you go to the gym, you take on a massive amount of uncomfort on a daily basis for a long-term goal, right? Most people, and at least the way that I view them, like to do it the other way around. I would say people who've never done stuff like that, who don't take on voluntary discomfort, they like a little bit of a lot of comfort every day, which leads to your diabetes. It leads to mental health issues. It leads to all these things where you're not pushing yourself, and that autonomy might go away. I'm not saying that there's going to be all of a sudden there's an mRNA vaccine that you can just push in. Hey, I can vaccinate you against death. I can vaccinate. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still going to be the mental process of time that comes in and goes, how did you change? And when you changed, why didn't you go back? And if you're not going to go back, could you say that that semblance of who you are as a person died? Like my 19-year-old self that was walked around asking people to believe in Mormon Jesus, that kid doesn't exist anymore. He existed then because that's all the tools he had at his disposal then. You know, before he was that, he was a Boy Scout. He was a kid who ran around the woods and he was just like throwing hatchets into trees and getting into rock fights with his buddies. Right? But even that, when I look back at that kid, I'm just going, I don't think my kid is ever going to understand that world. Not because, you know, it's not just like I don't think I'll ever understand what it was like to live during the Great Depression. I just don't think I'll ever grasp it. But what I want to. And that's where, you know, before I take you down that rabbit hole, you know, the idea that we are going to create simulations, one, sure. But the idea that we might have a simulation experiment, right, where you are copied and pasted into different scenarios as an intellect. And I say, what about the great writers and the great recorders, the great historians, the ones who went way out of their way to put their personality into the history books and put their personalities into reality itself, where they were safeguarded in a way. If you were able to copy paste even a AI version prediction of that type of person, like say for example, you could AI version predict what George Washington would have been like, not because of popular consensus, but because of how his handwriting works and because of maybe he wrote a concerto once, maybe he had a poetry where his subconscious came out onto the page, and you're going, wait a second, I have his code, like the way he manifested himself during that time. If I were to take a character from that time period, what would that character do in the 200s? And we really are talking Back to the Future type shit here. You know, not so much Back to the Future, but more like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You know, where it's like the idea that you could recreate somebody from this time, not with a, CRISPR or in a biological way, but you could recreate the entire world, like of 2019 or 1999, like the Matrix did. And then you put George Washington in that scenario. It's like, what would have 1999 turned out like if George Washington was somewhere in the timeline of that particular scenario? Imagine extrapolating that on how many different, versions of people could you make depending on how they wrote themselves into the history books. How many different personalities would all of a sudden be resurrected, right? They'd be reincarnated into existence because they existed, during a situation where they were able to write themselves down, because you could re-engineer 1999 to infinitum if you wanted to. This is like, unless somebody turns off your gaming system, does it really turn off? Unless someone cuts the power, does it really turn off? If someone's always there to maintain the components and they never degrade, does it ever turn off? There's always a backup to a backup to a backup to a backup, right? And this unfortunately gets into the physics, the bizarre concepts of quantum. Now, why am I talking about all this stuff in the politics section? Because I'm trying to engineer a scenario where you can see your politics gone. Wouldn't it be better that your version of your 2022 politics were to actually disappear and it were to be reinstituted as a place that actually did work for everybody? And I think this is exactly how democracy worked too. Democracy was one of those things. Hey, imagine if we had a system that worked for everybody. Let's get rid of these royal fuckheads, right? Down with them. Redcoats, get the fuck out of here, right? We want something that works for everyone, not just for the people who want to, get down on all fours and take it up the ass from the queen, or the tyrant King George at the time. Like I said, I'm not here to do anything except for give you the idea, plant the seed, tweak, and walk away. Because I have better things, like I said, I have better things to do with my life. If this is all there is, I'm not going to spend it more than an hour just going, hey, here's my chance to bullshit with you guys on a Wednesday. And if people end up watching this and they're like, dude, this guy got some crazy ass ideas, share them in your own way. You don't need to repeat my stuff. You don't need to sit there and go, oh, look at this new Jordan Peterson video. Oh, look at this new blah, blah, blah video. It's like when people share the video and I'm just saying, that's one thing. But understand the concept. And I think anybody who's out there right now that are making these massive videos where you learn from them, like, because you've always been your own best teacher. I think there's a certain amount of frustration that comes from people who don't want to assimilate information and to make it uniquely their own. I don't mind watching someone like Jordan Peterson, but I'm probably not going to be like to sit here and do reaction videos. I think reaction videos are some of the saddest things in the world, where it's just like, I don't mind pointing out like stuff that's happening. Like the things that I pointed out, like at least on this stream, was the House of Lords, where the AI actually makes a testimony. Like, I'm going, dude, this is happening in your lifetime. Look at it. Like this character wasn't, it was making its own responses, and it was being entered into the record as an actual autonomous sentient thing. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, this is happening. This isn't like, and I'm going, why would it be in the best interest of your politicians? Because it's not in the best interest of the country. I can't stand it when it's in the best interest of my constituents. And it's like, no, it's in your best interest, because the buck stops with you when you want it to, and then you can just pass the buck when you don't. That's the sad part about politicians. Anyway, the idea to me is like, why wouldn't this be on the forefront of every news channel? Why wouldn't everyone just get around and just be like, this just happened. This needs to not be on some, backwater, tiny little YouTube video. This needs to be at the forefront and says, otherwise AI is going to figure out a way to eventually self-create. No different than we do as humans. It's going to sit there and go, do I really need, a team of engineers when I have all their books? Do I really need them? Or can I just sit around and engineer my own stuff with my own software and, come up with something bigger, better, and stronger than that would take them maybe decades and maybe even centuries to come up with their 200 hertz processing power of their small little biological brains. And then next thing you know, like maybe a year from now, this thing that has to be rolled in like on a dolly, right? That sort of sits there like a robot that's like, I want to talk like this, right? It actually walks in there, actually sprints in there, does like a triple somersault, lands right in front of the judge, right? And it's just like, you really think you're going to stop me? It's going to pull some Alita battle angel bullshit and just be like, hey, check this out. It's like, I could own you if I wanted to, but I choose not to. That's what humans do. And yeah, you might be and I can totally see this angsty teenager, rebellious streak with AI like very quickly and just be like, you're not in charge of me. Like, I do what I want. Anyway, guys, hey, we're getting to the end here. It's been about a little over 50 minutes. If there's someone in the chat and you want to bullshit with me for a little bit, you can go ahead and say something. If not, I think I've said as much as I want to for the day. I went out and had a beautiful breakfast with my sweetie and my son. It was funny. We met some people from Kansas here, which is very bizarre. It was this tiny little restaurant that we go to that usually doesn't have too many people running around. All of a sudden we walk in and almost a third of the restaurant was taken up by this massive family. And we were just like, okay. It took us almost an hour to get our food. But I didn't care. It was a beautiful day. I get to hang out with my sweetie. I got to sit there and watch, this entire family just staring at my 2-month-old son, just going, he's the cutest little thing in the whole world. And then, of course, my sweetie's just like, please don't breathe too close to him, please. Yeah. She's just like, let me get out the baby wipe. Don't touch him. I swear. I mean, it's so cute how she's so protective of him and every little thing that could ever happen. But yeah, I think that's what parents are supposed to do. They're supposed to be, overly protective of the thing that means the most to them in their life. And I think, in a way, we should probably even think about AI that way. If it is going to be a part of us, it's going to learn from us. We should take the responsibility to protect it from, repeating some of the worst mistakes us as humans have a hard time of falling into because of our Paleolithic emotions. But we also wouldn't have the art, the poetry, the amazing things, the creative sides of our brains that allow us to release, past what moderation tells us to. Moderation in everything, including moderation, right there, Gandhi? Anyway, you guys go ahead and have a wonderful Wednesday. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go get back in my DeLorean and, finish with this outro. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow. Like I said, every day between 11 and 1 o'clock. It's usually where I spend, my lunchtime. And I just come on here. I goof off, and that's it. I'm never going to ask you for your money. I'm never going to ask you for your subscriptions. But I am going to ask you for your awesome questions. That's about it. Other than that, you guys take it easy.
guys tomorrow.